Thank you very much for the invitation. Thank you, Dennis, and the University UTA, and of course, what it represents, this fellow, Cruz. Many thanks for considering me to be part of this lecture series. I think it's wonderful to be here. It's my first time actually being in Texas, and I think this place is really powerful because of its mixture, its boundary relation within two countries, and I think that's something is mind-blowing, and you can see it on the food, on the music, on the people, and well, it's a blessing to be here. Can you hear me well on the back? Yes? Perfect. Excuse my English, it will be a bit rusty, so I will try to do my best, even do my Spanglish as well to be working by that, but well, okay, I'm gonna start. Today, well, I'm gonna talk about what I define architecture is this wonderful excuse to do other things, and it has been for me in the last almost 20 years an excuse to do social or create social agency, to think about or rethink about sustainability, and also what spatial relations do they have with justice. I come from Costa Rica. A few things I can tell you about my country, which I think are very important. In the 1940s, we abolished the army, so that's a very important asset of my homeland, because all that money that is badly spent for other countries in military efforts, we invested in health and education. And most of half of our country has been done for natural preservation as well. So it's truly a paradise, especially in the natural parts of the country, so more than welcome to come. I like to invite people to come over. We Costa Ricans really like to host people, and anytime, please visit. I think you will not regret it. I have this practice that is called Entre, Atelier, which I founded back in the years with Alejandro. Nowadays we work in separate practices. My atelier is called Atelier Central, and we have our webpage is entrenosateliercentral.com, and also we are really pushing things in our Instagram. If you want to follow us, amazing. We share a lot of work in there. We have a practice in the last probably 10-15 years that we have received important awards. We have been in more than 25 countries, giving more than 300 lectures, being everywhere. And I think that's really important, because it's not about, of course, the prizes or those things. It's more about the crafting and the experience behind those initiatives. And something I truly believe that is important, we accompany design and we develop architecture that promotes material and immaterial well-being. That's really important. And also, everything has to make sense. And we believe in collaboration and how we craft collectively identity on the projects. And something before I go in depth with some of our practice examples, I would like to talk about the why we do things. And one important concern for me is sustainability, or this ability to sustain things, which is very silly. Why the hell we want to sustain how the world is being today? In many ways we're doing so badly, and global warming, of course, is a good example of many other things we're doing poorly. And we have exceeded the capacity to sustain life or sustain our life on the biosphere. And we are just pursuing that ecology on how we control and dominate things. And I guess the big question here is, how do we fit in? Because, our Earth just pressed the reset button, we're going to be all gone, and life is going to appear anyways, it's going to appear again. So we have the ego such a big ego that we think we're destroying the planet, but we're just destroying our existence on this planet. So I think that's really important to understand. Also, when we talk about sustainability, another important question is resources, and what are the resources when demanding, and how can we provide resources or generate resources with the projects we're doing, and how can we fit in with that logic of things getting together. And some of our ancient people, they understand this very well. How do we leave the place in better conditions that we get it? And that's also a very important part of it. As we know, as we have defined sustainability for the last 30 years, if you look at a Chris Butter value map from 1998, I mean, it's complex, as we know. And we know the three main components: the economical, the social, the environmental. But I think at the end, what we're trying to seek in these days is how can we pursue integrated visions. And here are some important thinkers. I don't know if you have heard about Janine Venus and the Biomimicry Institute. And she, for example, she points out 10 rules in nature, considering patterns that are very important. And if we look how nature has been evolving and how things are interconnected, that's something that actually overlaps many other logics that are important to address. Or if we go to, for example, Donella Meadows' beautiful book, Thinking in Systems, she talks about 12 leverage points on sustainability. And probably the first steps is to get to know the materials, the processes, the design, but at the end, the intent, the values, the conceptual framework that is behind a system that actually is what really matters that we need to understand. And also, I really like a lot this phrase by Mr. Fuller, which points out the importance of cooperation without causing harm or disadvantage to anyone. And I mean, there is an obsession, almost like an obsession in many countries, to certify sustainability, right? And I don't want to go in depth to that, but there is this amazing initiative, I think it is based here in the US, about the Living Building Challenge. And they set at least 7 petals, as they call it, on how to achieve sustainability. And what I like about this vision is that they incorporate qualitative aspects as health, happiness, equity, and beauty. And sometimes these are things that we don't talk in the School of Architecture or even in practice, they really matter. And they really point out the importance of intersections, of trans relations, and of course the social, the spatial dimension or component within the projects we're aiming to develop. So when we talk about the social component, of course, we have to be working grassrooted and proximate to the communities we are impacting. There is also this phrase, which I heard from Brian Stevenson some years ago, that the opposite of poverty isn't wealth, but justice. And this truly highlights the important relation between spatial and justice and equity. So these 3 keywords are like drivers nowadays in our practice. And understanding that in Latin America for the last probably 20 years or 15 years, there is a lot of collectives in many countries or efforts that are led by many amazing people, activists, community leaders, colleagues, emerging small collectives, students. And I think it's truly a Latin American movement right now addressing equity, the importance on how these projects can enhance in the places we work. Also, I like to point out the importance of not just keeping this same narrative about the global north, where the developers and the rich people is, the wealthy, and then the south, the global south, in poor, in need for development. And of course, if you look up in the numbers and the real geography and the maps, we're speaking about the global majority, and this is quite in the central of the planet. So this notion of having the north and the south really blurs the importance of addressing where is the majority of the globe, because when we talk about the global north, we're just thinking about the big cities, and they don't really represent humanity at the whole extent. So that part also is very important. Also, when we talk about informality or poverty, I mean, it's unfortunate that there's almost like 1 billion people living under the line of poverty. 2 billion living in informality, 80% living with only $10 per day, and in Latin America, half of the population apparently lives under the line of poverty. And this is not only a third world issue, of course. I mean, you've seen this in major big cities, where I was in base 3 years ago in Boston. Boston is probably the most unequal city in the whole U.S. context. And I mean, we have the same problems. We have to rethink together what's going on with this. Also, in Latin America, we're not speaking anymore about rural immigration because the cities actually, they're reinventing the cities itself on the cities. And we have other new rural dynamics that are really important to address and to understand. Poverty, well, depending on how you want to see it, is not rising. And some data from the World Bank, which could be doubtful as well, but since 1995, 50% of the population had improved their living conditions. And also, we're not speaking about the lack of housing, but the lack of affordable quality urban environments that interconnect housing. So these are important questions. And also, 3/4 of the housing solutions has been done without any architects, urban planners, or regulations. So this is not good or bad. This is the way cities are being built. Many authors have been researching this for decades. And the cities, they just grow faster than we can think them or rethink them in the academia or even in the practice. If I go to Costa Rica, where I come from, Costa Rica is a really well-known ecotourism destination. But where most of the population lives, we have the same problems. We have gated communities, we have problems with waste management, and so on and so forth, you name it. Albert Einstein used to use this quote from Mark Twain, which says if we keep doing the same things, we're going to have the same results. And in a way, I think that's really important because we need to rethink collectively how we can assess our problems in a collective way and how can we craft together and how we craft together processes to build trust. And here I put trust in green, very big, because this is probably the keystone of everything, right? If we don't have trust, we cannot do anything. And that's something that I would love to share with you today about the importance of trust and these many processes that have been going on for quite a few years based on developing and crafting these processes of working collectively. And there are also two important drivers for our practice. The first one is quality of design has to be accessible to everyone. Unfortunately, sometimes the population, they think that design or architects are a luxury. We cannot afford an architect. That's a really bad misconception of our practice. And also that participation is participatory or participation process are important because they generate appropriation at the final product we develop together. Before showing you some examples, also I would like to acknowledge the importance of the local intelligence. And I think from my Costa Rican point of view, there are some things, silly things that they happen. For example, there is a huge movement back in Costa Rica about wellness. So, I mean, this is probably good fashion in a way. I mean, there is a lot of local efforts, people coming from abroad to develop healthy lifestyles, diets, and things. But we have one of the 5 blue zones in the world. Have you heard about it? Blue zones, there's only 5 of those. I think there is a really nice Netflix documentary about it. And I mean, the people that lives in the blue zones in Costa Rica is a rural area where they have strong social relations. The food that they eat is healthy food that they have in their gardens. They do physical exercise. They never retire. They're always, close to each other. And this is probably one of the reasons they live more than 90 years. And our average in Costa Rica is very high. With a really low income, we have achieved this type of life quality. So it's not about how much you earn or all the things you have. It's about rethinking life quality. So the question is, we're importing all these trends, but are we listening to these populations and learning from their wisdom? Also, we're talking about circular economies. We want to import many technologies from Germany, from Europe, even from the US context. But have we spoken to the informal settlements? They've been struggling with years, and they have amazing on-site programs on how to recycle, how to reuse materials. They have a lot of lessons to teach us. Or also, when we talk about mobility, the same thing. We want to import all these models for biking and things also from Europe and so on and so forth. And we have communities for the last 60 years that they have been doing amazing commuting ways with bikes. Are we speaking to these communities and learning from them? Or also we have all these experts from all over the world that they come to study our forests with different technologies. And how we talk about the indigenous people, they can really give us a master class on how to preserve and respect the forest. Are we looking into their wisdom, or are we just importing things? Or we want to regenerate now everything, especially all the problems we have with water. And we have right in front of our eyes in the rivers all these resilient landscapes that after all the trash, and pardon my French, all the shit we put into our rivers, it's still nature, you know, showing us how it deals with all these problems. Or we want to incorporate all these smart cities concept just because this is a business model for somebody else, but probably the most important part is not about smart cities, but smart citizens. And if that's something we're incorporating, I'm not saying I'm against technology, but of course there is something more important about the human experience and being smart within a social context. So in practice, I want to show you some examples of what we do. Oh, sorry. So there are some projects that I think they're milestones for us, and some of them are related with community spaces. Probably one of the first projects, I got a contact by Holcim Foundation to design a manual for nurseries in Costa Rica for low-income communities and rural areas. So we developed this book that generated guidelines for nurseries. And I think the important part of this was how can we put all the regulations into one single document, make it responsive to our climatic constraints and space use of it. And we came out with this set of guidelines, and we got commissioned to develop some of these projects. This is back probably in 2011, 2010. And I mean, the idea of these projects was really simple, was to have a first level, a multi-purpose for the nurseries, all interconnected spaces. But in top of it, we have like this buffer space, like elevated roof, that generates a thermal buffer and has a multifunctional space on top of it. And all the internal partitions are movable, so everything can get interconnected for that instance. And I think this project was really important for us because it was our first approach to understand with the Holcim Foundation and the local government how these pieces of infrastructure could be multi-use, not only for a nursery, but this is an opportunity to have different possibilities of spatial program and use. And that's something that we try to address with some of these projects that we construct back a few years ago. And as you see, they're really simple, just the base, multifunctional base with this big roof, and that's it. I used to have a history professor that he said that the history of architecture in the tropics is the history of the roof. So basically, if you have a very well-designed roof, you can put anything you want underneath. So more or less, this is the core aspect of it. Also, after this set of projects, we got really deep into participation. And when I talk about participation, I'm saying into a broader extent. Here, there is an experience that I developed in Lowell, Massachusetts with the refugee Cambodian community. Also with some Mexicans in Outland, Mexican campesinos, how do you say campesinos? Farmers, Mexican farmers in Outland, Mexico. And also with some community organized groups. And when we were in the pandemic, we have to struggle and to juggle how can we do participation without being there. So, I mean, we have explored many formats and many places on how to work this. And I think the important part is how we craft these experiences, not as a recipe, but as a series of moments, and how to listen, how to understand on site the communities, listen to their voices, try to, raise those voices, to have critical conversations about what are the aspects that we need for the particular project we're trying to put together, and then how can we validate these ideas. This is probably one of our most important projects. It's called La Cueva Luz en La Carpio. This is located in San Jose's biggest informal settlement. I'm going to show you just a short video about it. Informal settlement. We're speaking about more than 50,000 inhabitants. Almost 13 years ago, we spoke to these two amazing women, Alicia Avilés, who is the community leader, and Maris Estela, the leader of the NGO, which is based on a system of art. It's like a system of art education for social inclusion. And we spoke to them years ago, knocking the door, how can we help? How can we be helpful? And they presented to us the necessity of having this community space. And we worked collectively on developing this, and it was so nice to see during the construction process how the community felt very engaged. And for example, this is from Facebook back in the days, and Willie was saying, in a beautiful sky, this is rising up, it's coming into reality. So with things like this is when you realize the importance of what we're doing and the impact this is having on communities. Nowadays, this project has more than 150 volunteers with a top investment of $1 million, and the orchestra that is being developed in Cueva Luz had already performed in the National Theater in Costa Rica, which is a privilege, it's something really important for us. And it has impacted more than 900 persons. I think it's almost 1,200 nowadays. This project is located in the Toad Cave, which used to be the most dangerous sighting in San Jose, and nowadays called the Cave of Light. And it's a very simple program. It's a forest storage timber construction, the biggest in the region. And we first constructed one volume and then the other one because everything was, of course, related to a fundraise campaign, so we couldn't do all at once. And well, here are some of the images about how to also think a piece of infrastructure that could be easily installed in a really complex environment because there is not much place to maneuver, so we really need to craft a prefab timber construction. And because it's on an informal settlement, this could be easily also dismantled and get rid of it. So that was something important. As I mentioned to you, some of these projects, especially this one, has won important awards. And when we won the National Biennale of Architecture in Costa Rica, one of the colleagues, they called the College of Architects and say, hey, what the hell, these guys won the main prize. I mean, this is an illegal project, right? So the College of Architects, they called us, hey, guys, is that true? And they, of course, I mean, it's in an informal settlement. We don't have permits. We don't have permits to do it. So what we can do? So we send them in the afternoon the technical drawings, documents, and in a matter of hours, we got it legal, or at least into the College of Architects platform. And I'm saying this because it's not that I'm promoting illegal architecture. However, it's really important that we as citizens have been calling for an urban and social inclusion. I mean, the Carpio has been struggling with this necessity of having public spaces for the last 40 years, and nothing happened. Of course, we talk before doing the project, we do all this stakeholder analysis, right? So we talk to the local municipality, we talk to the College of Architects. I mean, we have approval from everybody without signing anything. So it's quite a lie what I just told you, because we have approval from everybody, but nobody wanted to sign the paper because it's an informal settlement. So I think this is even more important, because sometimes if we're really sure that this project will be like punta de lanza, like a spearhead for many other things, it's important to do it. Sometimes we have to take those risks in order to show what is possible on site. And what happened afterwards is that finally the Ministry of Education, they built a legal school, they built another thing here. Now the Housing Ministry is trying to legalize some of the lands and things like that. Because this has so many public attention that it really made a nice bomb for the site. So I think these projects, they're like catalysts for development, but also to show the importance of citizen engagement in these processes of building cities. For sure, it's a conciliation of public and private efforts. The mic going? Hello, hello, probando. Probably the battery. Should I use the other one?
Keep going. And
Hello, hello.
somebody should check the video to see if it's going.
But I think it's this one, right?
Yeah. Try this one.
Oh, maybe this one so I can be stand up. Hello, hello, hello. Hello, hello.
Yeah.
Hello? Hello, hello.
It's
Maybe so.
the mic is fine. Okay, the mic is fine, and I think they can hear you, so you can keep going.
Can you hear me well in the back? Like this?
Yeah.
All right. Awesome. Okay, so then another important part of this project is, I mean, we were the architects, but we were also part of seeking for solutions to develop, the fundraising. So one nice example is we took some of the beams, the laminated timber beams, we brought it to some of the major commercial centers. So people, they donate and they get to sign the beams, and then afterwards they were installed. So in a matter of a couple weekends, I think we fundraised like $60,000 only with this exercise. So, I mean, it's also nice to see different ways in which we can also enhance these processes. Also important to say that the project was not even finished, so but it was fully used. So this is also important to mention, that this is no architect's imposition. I mean, there were clearly a program already, there were ongoing initiatives, and what we did was try to help to envision those initiatives under a roof, basically, right? So that's also important also to acknowledge that we're just part of a bigger system. We're just providing some support in terms of the architecture of it. And well, here's some other images about all these processes. And as I mentioned, the biggest timber construction on our region, Juan Tuc was the engineer. He's amazing. He's like the legend back home in terms of timber construction. And as you see, everything, most of the technology behind this construction is based on the bolts. Basically, we don't use any metal connections at all. Everything is based on the bolts and the way we interlock all the timber pieces to generate these spaces. So everything is as it is. There is nothing, we don't cover anything. We just show the structure as it is. In fact, something we thought was a bit silly but nice, we won the Ibero-American Biennale of Interior Design in Spain. And I mean, there is no interior design, it's just the structure, that's it. And I think that was very nice to say, because at the end, the qualities of the materials, they're really honest, I guess, in that direction. And also, because of the open floor plan, we have the ability to have different programs going on. There is a Fab Lab, there is a tailoring entrepreneurship, which is called Entre Costuras. Actually, during the pandemic, the Fab Lab and this entrepreneurship, they work together to develop certain products for the pandemic responses. And there is many music ensembles, jazz, rock, breakdance, you name it. There is quite an important cultural movement in La Carpio due to this program. Of course, the project is part of it, but I think in a way this architecture tried to enhance those programs and celebrate. And at the end, this is probably one of my favorite pictures because they really show all the people that was truly involved, the government, NGOs, communities, entrepreneurs, us, and I think this really represents the importance of these joint efforts in that regard. Also, we have been working on other projects on La Carpio, and I generated this very conceptual model. What happens with La Carpio is that we have this project, which is a punctual project on site, but then we have some leadership engagement that was previously done or during the process that led to another collaborative effort and network, and then this went to a common project agency on developing here the projects, and then another project appears, and with certain logics they are similar, they exchange logic but in another site, and they correlate, they have other questions for sustainability, for example, then another punctual project, and then so on and so forth. And at the end what we see is that some of these things, they are similar, other they have their different notions on how to engage with the site, with the territory, and at the end this is a set of many relations that they articulate efforts, and they at some point they can even work together for that regards. Also, thinking about other scales on La Carpio, there is this project that is an ongoing initiative that is strongly related. La Carpio is like a big island and it has two rivers, right? And what happens with the informal settlement in that regards is that there is a big pressure on the rivers itself. And when you go on site, here's La Cueva de Luz, and here are some houses, and then you have the cliff and the river over there. And what happened here is that some of these houses that are on the limit, they rent the rooms for other families. So they're really in high density, hacinamiento, as we call it back home. So they struggle with really hard living conditions. In the pandemic, this was totally a mess. And, sorry, I keep spoiling the microphone. Jesus. Hold on. Can you hear me well on the, is it fine? All right. And then we wanted to talk with the families what happened if one of the houses we can get them out of there temporarily, so we can open space, generate some density, open up spaces, deal with a regenerative landscape, water treatment, and renewable resources. And what happens if we multiply that action on that border? And that's something that we're further discussing. This is an ongoing thing where we're currently speaking with the community and the local government to see the possibility on how we can actually have different systems going on between the two rivers. And for example, we can have a nature system and a public system of spaces that actually buffers that relationship, generates density, and open up the spaces, because what we have in most informal settlements in Central America is a lack of space for the public realm. So this is a really important thing that we wanted to address and discuss and try to incorporate regenerative technologies for landscaping, how to deal with rainwater, with waste management, waste, let's call it wastewater or gray water. And these are some images about what's going on with these discussions and how to generate public spaces, parks, public gardens, and this is something that we are still, discussing. But I think the important part of these projects, even though it could be an utopia at some extent, is that at least we have built Cueva Luz. So it really, there is a milestone. There is a project that actually worked, and the community acknowledged the importance of that project, which led us to have other meaningful conversations on site. This other project is being built on an indigenous community, and I think one of the key aspects of this project is the production line. I mean, if you go to the government and they have to do a public space, they just want to go from A to B the most cheap and simple way. They don't want to waste time or money or resources on the quality of the design. But in this case, at least they gave us the chance to do participatory design processes, not using a template to develop a community center, but to go on site and show the importance that the community can be part. The community could be part of the many parts of the process, and that really made a difference. With the same investment, we could achieve, we can double the size of the project, and also we can of course double the quality, as we call it. This is the typical community center that they give with the same budget, and this is the one we achieved with timber. And this was truly based on a participatory design process, a very simple linear plan, but of course the people told us the importance of have a permeable envelope connected with nature, that it responds to the qualities of the site, naturally ventilated, totally connected to the landscape, very beautiful indigenous reservoir, which is it's located. And I mean, there is a lot of, here important aspects that were set by the community itself. And here are some, this used to be the biggest timber construction before the Cueva de Luz. And everything, as you can see here from the pictures, was done and crafted by laminated timber, and it's a really lightweight structure above stilts because of humidity levels, really high humidity levels on the ground and on the place. And yeah, that's for us it's a really important. Another project I wanted to share is this Espacios de Paz. We worked in 2015 in Venezuela. They invited different collectives from Latin America to work with local communities. As you know, Venezuela is quite harsh conditions to work, and we got the chance to work with almost like 80 representatives from the community to make a retrofit or intervention in this big communal facility. So the set of interventions were based on this project was nobody's land, basically, because of this huge Berlin Wall that they have around. So what we wanted to do first is to get rid of that wall, also to use the bench to have underneath more program to it, also not to use the whole space with a single function just to have a soccer game, but they can have different activities at the same time. So there were some of the core concepts for the project. So we did that. We present these ideas to the community in a matter of hours to show them what are the possibilities of design that we wanted to address, and then we executed. This project was all done in 6 weeks. So it was truly a challenge, to how can we recycle with local materials, get the community on board to design, but also to construct the process. And as you see, it's very simple interventions to make this space really public and available and open on site. And what I love about these pictures is that they are being taken by the community from their social media. So I think that's also nice to see how these are not crafted images from a photographer. These are images from a daily basis of how people was able to use this project. And from Espacios de Paz, I heard this one was really successful to some extent because it was really simple and it really tackled the necessities that the community pointed us to in that moment. Another project we're developing currently is in Guatemala. Guatemala has the biggest informal settlement in Central America. So we went to Guatemala and create this workshop with a local office, which is called Para Todos. And we went and did a deep dive in Guatemala. Perhaps I'm gonna turn off the music. And we work closely with the community to understand there was truly a necessity to have also a community center very similar to what is going on in La Carpio. But the problem here, as you saw in the pictures, is the density. There is no space, and also they have really important problems with gangs, with maras. So some parts of this settlement, dangerous to some extent. So we really need to navigate the place in many ways to understand where are the possibilities. So we were keen about this particular part where they have a cliff. They used to have here a community center, but it was only the footprint of it. So we wanted to generate some density and also take advantage of that cliff to incorporate some public spaces. There were some trees. So how can we green that space? So this is an ongoing situation. In fact, I'm going next month to Guatemala to the Biennale of Architecture to talk about this project and see the next steps to follow. And I told Dennis for today, I hope this is not too boring for you guys, but I tried to put more of our recent projects, and these ones I'm going to show to you. This is part of our recent, currently projects we're doing. This is called Mercado Ciudadano, like the Citizens Market in Moravia, which is the town I live. And we have this challenge of putting, this is a parking lot in between two historical buildings. So they told us, the mayor told us, Mike, is it possible that we can work, and think something that may happen there? So we came out with the idea, okay, they still need a parking lot, but the parking lot is only necessary for certain hours in the day. So what happens if we generate these platforms in which also we can incorporate some, if possible, some green spaces, and these platforms, they are integrated with a very easily way to navigate them into another level, and to generate this openness in the main facade of the parking lot, and having these big umbrellas to provide shading. So this project is currently being done on the technical drawings, on the blueprints, as you call it, and it's probably going to be built early next year. And what I like about what we came out collectively is a full NLT structure, nail laminated timber with ram earth. So we're currently working on having this big canopy of timber with these walls of ram earth. And we saw that this is a great opportunity to show to the community that there are other ways to do spaces, to craft spaces with more sustainable and alternative materials. So this is a project we're really pushing forward because it really represents in many ways other possibilities to deal with the public spaces, and understanding the notion that not to fix everything for only a particular use, but to have the possibility of having many uses and many options for the citizens to engage with this type of common spaces for that regards. And another project, also I'm currently working in a very, very beautiful place, location in Costa Rica, is this is Roberto de la Osa. He's the community leader in Santa Teresa. This is one of the premium beaches in our country, but there is a gentrification here because there is all these big names from abroad that they come and they buy the land, and there is a displacement of the local community. So with the local community and the organizations, the on-site organizations, we're working on developing this community center. And you will see some of these images is the actual condition. I mean, there is a lot of investment for developing tourism, but not for the community itself. And this is what we have right now. It's not an inviting place. It's not it's really spoiled in many ways. So we were thinking together that what happens if we develop this hub. It's a 2-storage building made out of timber as well that has a fully wide open space on the first floor with a cafeteria, and then all deployable partitions that they open up and have all these gathering area when you can have different activities, especially kinesthetic activities. And in back of it, you can have a ramp that gets you to the next level. And some of the local NGOs, they can have their offices there. So we were thinking to have like this, community hub for many purposes. And also we have a close work for the schematic design with our landscape architect. And I mean, this is a project that really, is really important for our practice. And I mean, the concern that I told you today about the importance of using the local materials, but also acknowledge the local traditions and the way, the vernacular architecture or the smart way in the rural areas they do with a climatic responsive architecture. And this is something that we further try to explore, having this first floor as a multifunctional facility with a ramp on the back that gets you to the top part, with modular offices that can be interconnected, and having all these as two main platforms, and that's it. And of course, we did some, of the sketches and the models, and what I show you about the previous renderings. And some ongoing public spaces we're doing right now. I think this is probably one of the most important conversations I want to have in Costa Rica for the next 5 or 10 years. And I think I really wanted to share this project with you because this is a public park, and we did it during the pandemic. So first project, it came, actually the US Embassy, they sponsor the participatory design process. And how can we do participation on pandemic environment? Everybody was locked in their homes. I don't know if you have the chance to have these opportunities to develop participatory design in pandemic. It was truly a challenge. It was hard, but also it unfolds other ways to communicate and to have evidence of the processes. So, I mean, we invented doing post-its online. How can we, talk about the values of the project? How can we talk about the program? And, before these exercises, we have a capacitation video so that we were sure that the community, they know how to use these tools, that they're really easy, but we need to make sure they were able to use them. And we learn a lot about these processes. And something that happens with these projects, when we were on site and trying to put that program on site, there was the same problem I find in many communities in Costa Rica, and I see it in other countries in Latin America. I don't know if this is an issue in the US context, but everybody has this sense of security just by putting borders. If you enclose a public space, that's going to be secure. And that's something that most of the mayors in Costa Rica, they argue a lot, and they say, yeah, we have to enclose the space because otherwise people is going to come in and spoil the place. So we don't have co-responsibilities, and to some extent, it's just a poor notion of doing security. And what we try to do with this project, I mean, if we propose to just get rid of all the fences, they're going to say no, for sure. I mean, there is no way they're going to do it. But what we tried to explore here, was how about the borders? We have different levels of openness, so that actually the community has the ability to open and close the space as they wish. I know this is not probably the right solution, but at least it's a transition for the right solution, because the notion of security is people seeing each other, basically. We don't need such a big investment of infrastructure. But what we tried to do here was to work on that, was to have, for example, these pivot movable partitions that when they move, they generate a bench. So we negotiate the boundary for that instance. And also on the back, the other boundary, we thought, how about we make a vertical playground for the kids? So it's not a fence, but it's a playable fence to some extent. So this is something that we wanted to incorporate in the design because it opens important conversations. Even the community was a bit reluctant to some extent. Would that really work? This is recently built, but the response we have so far is that, yeah, actually, why not? Why don't we open the spaces? I know this looks like common sense, but in our context, I think this is generating important questions about the public realm and many ways to deal with it. It's not black or white. We should think about transitions. Hopefully, in a matter of years, they will get rid of this and they just open it up to the whole community. But that's going to take time. And if we provide at least these temporary, let's say, solutions, they may generate these important conversations. But it's also a prototype. I'm not saying this is perfect and this is the right solution, but at least it shows other ways to deal with the borders, with the boundaries. And we are really keen about seeing the evolution of how people is going to react to the quality of these spaces. And yeah, these are some images about, this has been really recent. Actually, these pictures have been taken by my phone. This is not like a produced picture at all. But I wanted to show you how made this affect the relationship with this neighborhood, which is a neighborhood with a tight intense neighborhood. And I mean, it's there. We have seen very important engagement, especially from the kids, on using these spaces. And yeah, I think it's what I wanted to show to you is sometimes these prototypes, like the project you saw in La Carpio, the big community center, and this one, I think they raise important questions. And sometimes we have to take the risk and see if this is part of the solution. Hopefully it's not making the problem bigger, but sometimes it's necessary, to generate these physical questions to understand if this is this is what we want, the concern we want to raise in terms of relation with the public realm, with the public spaces, and so on and so forth. And as you see, in this case, everything is still, and it was really easily crafted with the local technology. This is the community association. When we developed this project, there was another association. When they got this project, they were a bit reluctant. They didn't want it too much, but we went through the process. We talked about it, and now they embrace it, and we'll see how this process unfolds. And this other project, I'm really excited about it. It's called Las Gradas de Copey. It's another project which is in this stripe. It's a vertical stripe, and it's a connection because of the slope. You cannot put a ramp or, of course, an electrical staircase will be too expensive. So we had a talk to the community to understand how can we enhance that public space. There are immigrants from Nicaragua in that area, and the quality of the public space is really bad. So we talked to locally with the community and the municipality to see what are the possibilities, what are the challenges of dealing with these spaces, and we presented the ideas that we crafted, and we identify certain spaces that they're really important to address. And at the end, what we came out was a series of systems related with the public furniture, with the terraces, with the green spaces, and the staircase with a certain sequence that it wouldn't be too harsh to navigate the place. And here are some, of the technical drawings. This is about to be built in a couple of months. I think 1.5 months will be the construction starting. And here what we identify is to have a set of staircases with a slider for the kids that goes in a different rhythm and motion, and having different platforms to highlight the landscape connection with the site to the surroundings. And this place is really, really something else. And the municipality is pushing forward these ideas because on the way this project may connect to the different levels and places on site. And let me see how I'm doing in time. Oh my God, 50 minutes. Hold on. I think I'm gonna jump quickly to another part, and that because I told you it's gonna be too long. Jesus, hold on. I'm so sorry. I didn't want to take too much of your time, so I'm gonna just move quickly to this other project. And Jesus, hold on, because we have already 50 minutes. Jeez. Okay, I want to switch gears and talk about what we do in academia, because I show you some practice examples, and as I mentioned to you, it's been years of doing design and build projects since 2005, and these projects, they have been developed in many communities, scales, and different associations, and in a matter of years, we did map the importance of having the relationship between academia, practice, and expertise, and how we have different, scales, projects that they generate income, projects that they don't generate income. And I'm saying this because when you're about to graduate, you don't know what the hell you're gonna do with your degree, right? And if you're gonna have work or not. So this is an important part to understand, that it doesn't matter the scale, but it really matters what are the values and what is the purpose, why you study architecture, what is the impact of the things that you like and you're passionate about. So in a way, mapping all these exercises and the way they're interconnected, they unfold many relations. And projects like this, like the one, my graduation project, that won the Archie Prix in China back in the days, the first project we did in the university related to a community center. Then with my students, we develop other initiatives to work on one-on-one scale projects. And we work in different informal settlements with different community organizations, with Techo para mi País, for example, that is a big NGO in South America. We work on developing and crafting these projects with our own workshop back in San Jose. So we build a project on the parking lot, we disassemble, and we bring it back to the community. And we got the community leaders involved on the fundraising campaigns. And many of these exercises, they have been really important to us. So we can, develop this set of exercises that have proven to us the importance of being proximate, on collaborating alongside with the communities, and doing many type of interventions, not only in one semester. We work with these communities for at least 1 or 2 years, and we develop trust, and we work at this great excuse with architecture to generate human relationships, to explore placemaking, and to see these projects actually performing, and how this is a joint effort, a transformative experience for many people in the places that we work. And of course, all the lessons that you can learn on site on how to build, how to craft, how can you learn from actually the community. They really have knowledge and wisdom on how to construct things as well. So this is something very important to us. The reason I wanted to rush a little bit, and I'm about to finish, is because I wanted to share with you this platform. We have what is called Justicia Espacial, or spatialjustice.com, justiciaespacial.com. This is a really important effort that we have done together with a collective of architects, mostly from Latin America. We have won important prizes in a couple of biennales recently. And the importance of this platform is that we have developed an online community in which we have developed academic projects with other universities, strategic relations with NGOs, with the government. And also we have a series of public events, more than 70 nowadays, with amazing speakers, free online that you can see them. Right now we have them recorded, and also we have a set of papers that you can download for free from many experiences in Latin America from other collectives. So this is something I really would like to encourage you to check it out. It's in Spanish and English. So you can see all the lectures, you can see all the papers that have been put into that platform. And what we have learned from these exercises in terms of spatial justice is, of course, going to the state-of-the-art relevant literature and reading, Soha about spatial justice, or Jangel about the humanization of public space, and so on and so forth. And also with the set of lectures and things that we have on this platform, we have came across with different responses to develop spatial justice models. So these models, they help us to have a filter on how we want to understand spatial justice, and how these models are driven towards values. And these values, they help us to understand the space, to extract critical spatial patterns of these spaces, and how can we represent those patterns in a technical point of view. Because when you research about spatial justice, most of the information comes from geography, sociology, anthropology. But there is a depth of architecture in technical, in a technical dimension to speak about it. And I think that's a challenge that we're trying to push with our students on how can we talk about spatial justice with the architectural tools we have and the spatial design that we want to achieve. And of course, this is strongly related to participation and to the engagement tools that we develop to work with the communities. And this type of interfaces, this is something that we try to further explore in detail, and how can actually we generate that engagement with the communities we are working on. And also, how can we present these projects, and how can we can generate a narrative that shows the different strategies on site, and they're really easy to see, to visualize, and to explain to the communities that we work. And for that instance, we work with physical hand sketching, and at the end of these processes, we present it on site or in the School of Architecture to the communities. We invite them to our schools to have discussions about the project. And I promise I'm about to finish. This is just some examples of our practice, which I wanted to just finish with this to show you the importance that we're still working first with hand sketching, with physical models. We go on site, we do all the climatic analysis in depth to understand all the environmental features, how we deal with ventilation, how we deal with solar radiation, how we deal with all the design guidelines that inform the design process, and all these models that we craft and we celebrate in our practice. We even have our way to, to document these models, and we really enjoy this part. And then going into the digital environment, and this is a couple of examples. This is we call it the treehouse. This is a project in which we did it with the client. They wanted to have a really in close relationship with the forest, with the back forest they have, and with a very simple program, 2 storage compact unit, like a platform with cross ventilation. And we did some of the hand sketching, the physical model, and this is the site. This is a really amazing place. I'm working right now, different housing projects. And this one in particular, as you see, it's well, first of all, it's a shame that this part is spoiled like this, but it was part of the developer. But what they have on the back is a beautiful forest. And this couple, they really wanted to have a close relation with that forest. And this is, part of the asset of the house. Having this screen with the platforms, with the terraces, and that's about it. Fully cross-ventilated and in close relation with the landscape, and the openness and the porosity of the envelope, and this connection, of course, with the site. And this other small project we have recently built is just something simple. It's a box with 2 transitional spaces. As you see in this video, this is a very, very simple project. It's just a couple of screens that they unfold and fold to present the spatial qualities of the materials. And here you can see a video about, that's my son, by the way. And that's, this is, we call it caña brava. That material is similar to bamboo. And we have this in the front part of the building and also in the back part of the building. And last but not least, I would like to show you about the NLT technology. I told this to Dennis. This is a local entrepreneurship that we're having right now. And it's amazing because we are laminating local timber, any kind of timber, with some specific nails we use. And we have been doing like huge, big beams for several projects. This one, for example, here on your right, is a project I'm currently building on the Caribbean side. Timber, that's another house that is bigger than this one. And it's amazing how, with very easy, local, accessible technology, we have achieved this level of structures, really easy to implement and to prefabricate on the construction process. And my last slide will be about acknowledging the people that work in our projects. This is something that nobody does locally in Costa Rica. I don't know if you do it here, but after the construction is done, nobody cares about who were those hands that actually put all the materials into place. And I think that part is very important, to acknowledge the people that actually does the craft. At least from my point of view, I learn a lot from them, and it's so important to have a good vibe when you build the projects with the constructor workers, with the crew. And this is something that we really like to acknowledge, and because some of them, they don't even finish their high school. And for them to have a certificate from the professionals that celebrates their participation in the project is something that is very important for them, but also very important for us. And this is some of the missing links or the little details that we really forgot that probably are the most important part of the project, because they're an amazing part of the team as well. Thank you very much. Sorry to rushing you too much.